I've got tea, I've got the quintessential Theater Nerd in 2020 t-shirt. Tomorrow's New Year's Eve. It's time to do some reflecting. So I think we can all agree that 2020 as a year has been a steaming pile of garbage. Our plans got canceled, we haven't seen our friends in months. Basically, it's just all a great big mess. However, in my opinion, New Year's is supposed to be about looking back on the previous year in fondness. And while I, as much as everyone else, would love to walk backwards into 2021 and flip 2020 the bird, I think I'm also gonna be a little positive today. I don't want this video to be a downer, so we're gonna have some fun and I'm gonna share some of the nice things that happened to me this year, and I hope that you will think about those things for yourself as well. Back in March when all this started, my brain, being the optimist it is, was like, oh look, I don't have to go to work, I'm gonna be at home all the time, so much time to work on projects, I'm gonna get so much done. And then I didn't. I got fabric for a project that I had in the wings for a really, really long time. I started working on it, and then I didn't work on it for a really long time, and then I did a little more, and then I got stuck on the sleeves, and have not finished it, even though I told myself I would finish it this year. And you know what? That's okay, because this year, like I said, has been a dumpster fire. And you know what? It's okay if those of us who are creative are not able to do creative things all the time when we're under extreme stress, you know? And honestly, I'm just proud of myself for doing it at all because I've been putting off this costume for so long. And I'm finally doing it. And while I have not done the sleeves yet, I am going to do it next year. And even though the only things I've finished this year since February have been a commission for a friend and the chemise that I made last month, it's okay. Our productivity is not the most important thing about us, and I still did things though. I may not have used all of this extra free time to its greatest potential, but I survived, and I did do things that I had been planning to do for a while. I got patterns and fabric for a few projects that I've had in my head for a really long time, and a few new ones, because I can't be stopped, apparently. I got a whole bunch of embroidery done, and I'm really close to finishing my Molly Mock coat, which was a massive undertaking to begin with. And I started some things that taught me new skills, like the chemise that I made last month, and the rest of that Regency costume when I get to it. So while my cosplay growth cannot really be measured in terms of actual finished projects, I still did pretty good as a cosplayer this year, I think. And that's not even going into how much I have gotten better at shooting from home, which has become a necessity with not being able to do shoots with actual photographers. I figured out a setup, I got a tripod, I figured out some editing, not the best editing, but you know what? It's me with my phone and an app, and it turned out pretty okay. This has been the year of making do, so I'm making do and I'm enjoying myself. And I also started this YouTube channel, which was not something that I really had the guts to do before, and for some reason got the guts to do this year, and I don't know why that happened, but you know. And while my creative cosplay side may not have been its most fruitful this year, it's not the only great thing that happened to me this year. Probably like the saving grace for this year for me was D&D. I started playing last summer with a group of friends who are local, and of course we have not been able to play in person because of, you know, everything. But we started playing online, which has been great. My poor dice have been sitting in their bags for months, untouched. Poor little babies. But opening up this world of playing D&D online meant that I also got to join 2 different campaigns on top of my other one that I would not have otherwise joined. So I'm now a part of 3 different campaigns, and also have started DMing one for my family members. And the great part about this is even when certain groups fall through because of scheduling or whatever, it means that I pretty much have at least 1 game a week, and it has really been the thing that I look forward to every single week, having at least 1 D&D game. So while my year has basically just been play D&D, watch football, procrastinate, and buy plants, I've had a pretty decent year for it being stressful and lonely and exhausting. Now, as we all know, New Year's is not just about saying goodbye to the previous year, but welcoming in the new one, and of course that glorious tradition that gets broken within 2 weeks of New Year's resolutions. Now, I'm not really one for making New Year's resolutions because I am not very good at committing to things in that manner. And big goals normally are not things that happen for me because I am all over the place and say I will make a project one year and not do it. And, I think that everyone can relate to that in some respect. However, I do still make goals because we all do. It's part of being a person. So I figured I'd share some of those goals that I have for 2021. So as I'm sure you have probably figured out if you've followed me for any portion of time and also watched the first half of this video, but I have a lot of very unfinished projects. I have my aforementioned Queenie Goldstein dress that I finally started this year and then did not finish because the sleeves turned out to be a problem. And I have patterns and fabrics and some other mostly done things that have not actually been finished laying around. And you know what? I think I'd like to try and get through some of that so I can actually start new projects without feeling guilty about all of the unfinished old projects lying around. And on that note, I'd like to sort of, try not to work myself into a corner, commit myself to a costume just because I said I'm going to do it this year. I'd like to sort of try and work with what I'm inspired to make at a time, rather than what I said I would make. I mean, doing things because I said I would make them in a year has worked in the past, but it doesn't always work in the most enjoyable way, Like, I have all these things that I need to finish and that I want to finish, and I want to. It's like, I really, really would love to actually have finished cosplays for Aziraphale from Good Omens, or Jack from Mary Poppins Returns, and I am inspired to do those. But, sometimes you, get in a mood, and, getting in a mood and being, super obsessed and really wanting to do a specific costume is the reason why I made my Caleb Widogast cosplay, and how I was able to make it in a very short amount of time. I mean, obviously part of that was I thrifted the coat and just stained the leather dark instead of the light that it came in, and the only things that I actually made were the tunic and the scarf and eventually the undershirt. But mostly the reason why I was able to make that costume so fast was because I really wanted to. All the costumes that I really want to make but I'm not as in the moment inspired to make are the ones that have taken me the longest. And while it's I really want to do those, I want to have those cosplays, I'm not necessarily I really, really want to make a button-up shirt with French cuffs. Because that's not very fun. Right now while I'm embroidering for Molly or hand sewing a few things, I've been watching a lot of the first campaign of Critical Role. And as I think you can guess by the little Percy pop that has been sitting behind me in every video that I've had at this particular location, I really like Percy, and I really want to cosplay him. And so, because I'm currently working my way through Vox Machina, I'm pretty inspired to do it. And I have a couple patterns. And I should probably start working on that at some point in the very near future while I still have that inspiration. Luckily, there's over 100 episodes, so that inspiration should stick around. But I don't have that same like fire and like I really want to do this with some of my other projects. Basically, this is just a long-winded, rambly way of me giving myself permission to jump all over the place depending on what my sporadic inspiration decides it wants to do, which is not necessarily the best way to actually finish things, but hey, who knows? Maybe I will. Another goal of mine for this year, which I think will definitely help with my productivity with making cosplays, is to clean up my sewing room. My family moved into this house last December, and I put things in my sewing room, and then acquired more things, and never actually like got around to like actual organization or anything. And so I have like piles of patterns and like bags of fabric and boxes of fabric, and it's all just sort of chaos, and like I know where things are generally, but it's a mess in there. And I don't know about everybody else, but for me, it's hard to work in a mess. I mean, I'm perfectly capable of working in a messy room. I have done it plenty of times, but it's not as enjoyable it's not as enjoyable to be in the room, you know? Once I get it like organized and looking nice and decorated nice and just looking more aesthetically pleasing, it'll be so much more enjoyable to be in there working on things, you know? So that's sort of like my big first goal before I start working on all of the backlog of partial projects. Another non-cosplay goal that I have is I want to start writing again. I went to college for it, and I really enjoy writing. I just haven't done it. And I would really like to get back into it, because I had like story ideas, and then I just sort of fell off the wagon. And on that note, I want to work better at being a better DM for my family members, because having one session every like 4 months is not the best in general, especially not for people that are brand new to D&D. I'm a very slow planning DM. My tea has gotten to that point where it's like, it's still warm, but I can tell it's gonna get cold soon. Yeah, it's like the cup is still so warm. And the beverage is still warm. But not for long. And all these goals that I have for myself are probably putting a bit more on myself than I'm actually going to be capable of, just based on me in general as a person. I can be quite productive and get a lot done in a short amount of time, but it comes in spurts, and I can never predict what those spurts are gonna be. And I probably have, as usual, cut out more work for myself than I will be capable of, especially since we're still going through the same problems as we have all year. But you know, the thing with like New Year's resolutions and goals like that, it's like, if you take your whole list, you can sort of narrow it down to just a general idea of what you want out of your year, and mine just sort of is to actually get back into doing the thing that I love, and that is doing cosplay. And I sort of fell off the wagon this year, and I would like to get back on and make things, because I love making things, and I haven't as much. And it's just a mess in there. It is such a mess. Oh my god. It's such a mess. There's stuff all over the floor. Okay. Wow, this video has been so rambly, and I have no idea what I actually talked about for most of it. But I would love to hear what fun things happened to you this year. What nice things you actually got to experience in 2020 among all of the unpleasantries. And I'd like to know what kinds of goals you've set for yourself for the new year. So leave those things in the comments. I will read all of them, seeing as there are not very many of you yet. Oh yeah, that's another goal. I would like to grow this channel. Anyway, if you like this video and want to follow along as I attempt to actually succeed in some of these goals, subscribe to my channel. You can also find other social media that I am on down in the description. My videos come out every other Wednesday, so thanks for watching and Happy New Year!